That'd be fine.
Strangle on yet.
Looks so
There's a price to pay for
Can you
that.
speak from experience?
Uh-oh.
No, it's just a trip to Mexico.
Oh, nice.
It's inhuman.
I bet. But you're nice and tan.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I don't think you're allowed to complain after you go for a trip outside the
It
country.
was 91 every day
So you
every
brought
day.
this back with you.
with a heat index of 101.
Dang.
That's hot.
Where were you?
Cozumel.
Oh, how nice. Are you complaining?
It was
Did you
just too
swim with the
darn hot.
dolphins?
No, I didn't get in the ocean. I let the kids do that. I was not up for it.
Yeah. Call to order the DDA meeting for Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. We'll do the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we get a roll call, please?
Justine King,
Here.
Sherry DeGraff,
Here.
Casey Haney,
Here.
Joe Mancini,
Here.
Eric Schaefer,
Here.
Kevin Smith, Ann Alberg.
Here. All right. Moving to approval of the meeting agenda.
Motion to approve the
Support.
meeting agenda.
Motion with.
I have a question.
Yes.
We've got a motion with support.
Yes.
I've
Discussion.
got a question. Did you add in the thing that I asked you to add in this afternoon?
I did not, but I plan to speak about it during the Heritage Day proposal.
Okay, and we can vote on it at that point?
My overall goal essentially is to address that we are looking to add in the NXT ban and that we're gonna get the invoice and bring it to the committee, have our committee vote on it as, and agree to what it is that, to hire them and to spend that and then bring it
I
forward.
just feel like we kind of dropped the ball in February or March, whenever it was. And I hate to keep them just on the hook for another few months
Yeah,
without knowing that they are in ink.
yeah, we're gonna be having our Heritage Day committee meeting on 10th, as planned. And then we'll be able to, as a committee, approve and,
Cassie.
yes.
Can the committee
As
actually
the
approve
Heritage
that?
Day, as the Heritage Day is one of the items on the agenda, you can certainly approve the agenda as is, and then this could be a discussion point at that time. So that way the board could be privy to what comments, questions, and concerns you have.
Okay.
That there would be no agenda amendments required as it's already listed there.
Okay.
Perfect.
But we
More
still would
discussion?
need a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the agenda? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Justine, who was it that seconded that?
I did.
Sherry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
All right, moving to the approval of the consent agenda with the minutes from last month and the bills as of May 27th for $9,830.76. Any motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll support.
Okay, motion with support. Any discussion? Okay, and we'll have a roll call, please.
Sherry DeGraff,
Aye.
Casey Haney,
Aye.
Joe Mancini,
Aye.
Eric Schaefer,
Aye.
Ann Alberg.
Aye.
Justine King.
Justine King.
Yes.
Sorry.
No problem.
We're all human.
All right, moving to public comments. Any public comments? Okay. Reserve time, none. unfinished business. Review of quotes for the Wi-Fi install at the park.
So regarding the quotes, as is mentioned in the agenda item, there's been a transition in the liaison for Spectrum.
Mhm.
That they were suggesting a revised quote, with some added security measures. However, I haven't gotten that yet.
Okay.
So I do not have any, updated information related to this quote. So the board could potentially, review the quotes, excluding Spectrum's pending revision, or provide feedback on whether to proceed with one of the proposals, if there's one of the other ones that they like, or, discuss the feasibility of a budget amendment this fiscal year or defer implementation to the next fiscal year. Because there is a significant disparity in regards to the cost between some of these.
Okay.
So not sure what the board's.
Do we have any more
Huh.
thoughts on that? Anyone?
I kind of like Spectrum. The K group for 38,700. I think that's a little much.
Yeah.
I mean, the quote that we have here, and I understand that we could get adjusted.
Yeah.
$850 and 314. I mean, I think Spectrum has been pretty reliable in most places, either they have Spectrum, Comcast, Infinity, I think they're all the same,
Yeah.
But we do need to get Wi-Fi in the pavilion. People have been asking at the vendors for the market, and especially, heritage days that we have outside market vendors, we definitely need Wi-Fi down there.
Mm-hmm.
So probably Spectrum will be the fastest to get up,
Yeah.
I would assume,
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm kind of feeling that way too.
Well,
So,
they're incredibly reliable.
yeah,
That's all I use in my home.
I'm kind of feeling that way too, but then we would need an updated quote, so should we move it to next month, or should we vote?
So this
On
depends the timing
pre-approving?
of the board.
Okay.
That, if you are willing to authorize me to negotiate a contract not to exceed $4,000 per year, with added security measures, I could, have that conversation. If
Okay.
the board is willing to make that motion, we could, that would expedite the process.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, any other feedback on it?
And that Wi-Fi would actually hit the amphitheater.
That would hit the amphitheater.
Mhm.
That would cover the train depot and that
Oh,
entire
okay,
section.
cool.
Because, the goal would be for it to be able to completely activate the space for any events that are out there.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to look at the Spectrum and have Doug look into it, not to exceed $4,000 per year, whatever you suggested. I think that would be, the sooner we can get that up, the better, I think.
Mm-hmm. Any second?
Did you second it? No? I do then.
Okay, motion with second. Do we have any more discussion on it? So the motion is moving forward with Spectrum to negotiate not to exceed $4,000 a year. Can we get a roll call on that?
Casey Haney.
Aye.
Joe Mancini.
I,
Eric Schaefer.
Yes.
Ann Alberg.
Aye.
Sherry DeGraff.
Hi.
Justine King.
Yes. Okay, passes.
You know.
Sweet. All right, moving into new business. Up first, we have a streetscape proposal.
So I put together a staff report here, that staff is requesting the board to review the attached proposal from Williams and Works. Malia is in the crowd. She's the lady who would provided us this proposal. As you're aware, our 2003 downtown blueprint indicated this is a need. We have not done a streetscape plan. There has been, no work. This last came up at the council meeting where DPW was expressing the urgency of the matter by having to, remove some of the trees because they'd outgrown the space and damaged sidewalks. So Malia's worked with us and she's here to hopefully, ask any, or you can ask any questions related to this, but she's prepared a potential scope of work for discussion and board review. This could be done, tentatively this year or later. Recommendation I would make is if the board chose to go forward with this, is that later, prior to signing the contract, we would establish a timeline, figure out logistics, any hurdles, and bring that back at a later date.
Okay. Any questions for Malia?
How many trees again are we gonna cut down to?
So this year there was 2. How many in total, I can't say. These trees have been here about 15 years, but Malia is a landscape architect. She has a lot more knowledge in this field than I do. So unless it's something specific, related to like the DDA, I would ask her to
Okay.
take it
And we're
away
not
with.
gonna replace them, or are we?
So part of the goal of this plan, as Doug had mentioned, is, there are standards generally for how you would create a street, whether that is you have an engineered plan set that shows you what's going to happen, or just a series of standards that you might have in your back pocket for when tree replacement's needed. Currently today, those standards are not well-defined or non-existent in some capacity. So the goal of this project really is to take all the work that you've been doing on the DDA TIF plan, look at those projects, how they might work into a streetscape, look at streetscape standards, maintenance capacity, those things, put it into a matrix, and then make sure that those standards actually work by putting it into some sort of kind of diagrammatic plan form. And then that'll kind of tell you in the future when opportunities arise for tree planting or streetscape improvements, what your next steps would be.
Because I do, at least in my opinion, if we take the trees down, I'd like to see something else go up there. Because, they're nice, especially in the holiday season. You put lights up, you come down Main Street and you see the lights, and it looks good. If you've got 2 trees missing, it kind of, and I'm not saying let's put trees, we can do whatever we want, I think.
Well, some of that too is a little bit of a right place, right fit kind of thing. So, Doug and I have talked about some of the trees that you have out there, while beautiful, are going to overgrow their space.
Oh, sure.
So things like that, keeping that in mind, being able to provide a little bit more context of what you plant today so that you can make sure that it's there tomorrow, really.
Sure.
Because I always say there's, it's never too soon to plant a tree. So.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
And this proposal will really allow, a steering committee would need to be established. Tentatively, I would anticipate at least 1 or 2 of the board members, likely with myself from DPW and possibly the manager, pending availability, to try to have some discussions and visualize this. But this is something that Williams Works has been working on, adding into our development plan as one of those early priorities as well.
Okay.
I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about this process and this scope. We tried to keep it kind of high level so we can make sure that we're giving you something, in a efficient and kind of quick manner too. I know that some of this is, let's get things moving.
Yeah,
So.
that would be my question. Maybe like, what does your guys' timeline look like right now as far as if we move forward with it, say this month?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So we don't actually have a defined timeline in here specifically. Oftentimes when we work on plans like this, they can take anywhere from 4 to 8 months. It just depends on how detailed the process is, how often the steering committee is available to meet those kinds of nuances.
Okay.
But that's something we can certainly put together if that would be make you feel more comfortable moving forward.
It's just nice to know when things could potentially go into a
Yeah.
new year and a new budget, and you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
absolutely. So I would say too, this point, if this proposal moves forward as is, one of our first things would be getting some dates on the calendar.
Okay.
So for me personally, I like having those established early in the process, at least, our probably first 3 meeting dates, just because it gives you guys deadlines, it gives me deadlines.
Yeah.
That way we can make sure we're having good check-ins too.
Anything else?
So we need a a motion to proceed with this proposal?
So yes, you could potentially make a motion to proceed with this proposal, as part of the scope of work for this year.
Okay.
If you chose. That, as you know, later on the agenda, we have the budget adjustment that was posted after this, depending what the board's decision was. It may not be needed. But yeah, you could proceed with the proposal scope for 2025.
All right, I make a motion to proceed with the streetscape proposal for 2025.
I'll support.
Do we need to put any dollar?
There's
Amount.
already a
It's
dollar
already in
figure
there. Okay. So I
in
just
the
wanted to make sure.
contract.
Yep. Perfect. Motion with support. Any more discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Joe Mancini,
Aye.
Eric Schaefer,
Yes.
it's Kevin Smith, Ann Olberg,
Yes.
Sherry DeGraff,
Aye.
Casey Haney,
Yes.
Justine King.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Malik.
Thank you.
All right, coming up next, events. Cassie, looks like we have 4th of July up first. Good evening. I am here so the Middleville Lions Club, as has been mentioned before, is coordinating the 2025 4th of July celebration and has planned for several activities to take place within the DDA district. These activities are intended to provide a free, family-friendly experience for community members downtown. Currently, the following expenses have been submitted in association with the activities that are happening downtown, including the inflatable rentals and the DJ. I currently have the invoice for the inflatable rentals. However, I don't have it for the DJ yet. However, I know that Andrew has been going through some health issues, which has kind of stalled getting that invoice, but I know that he said that he was going to get that to me as soon as possible. My request is for the approval of $730, $530 for the inflatable rental, and $200 for the DJ services that have been proposed. My request is that the board approve the expenses for these activities that are happening downtown.
I had a question
Yes.
about because of what's downtown, so there will be inflatables in the grass-ish area?
Yes.
And then the DJ at the amphitheater? Or-
Yes.
Okay. And then is there anything else gonna be going on?
From what I understand, it sounds like, from speaking to Andrew, that TVC is going to be donating like hot dogs and having sidewalk chalk and bubbles and things of that nature.
Okay. That's all.
There's nothing under the pavilion going on at that time, or no?
Not that I am aware of.
Okay.
Anything else? Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the $730,
30.
$730 for the July 4th celebration downtown.
I support.
Motion with support. Any further discussion?
I've got a question on the event application.
Yes.
Does the Lions Club know they're on the hook for the toilet paper and other restroom supplies?
I don't believe that they are aware.
Okay, it does say that they are responsible for it, so I have no idea. But if you guys are responsible to refill them, you've got to have some way in which to do that. And yeah, I just want to make sure you guys are fully aware that that's what's written on the event.
So what does that look like? Do you guys provide it or they refund you for what was spent in redistributing that? Or do we have to go and visit?
It's as similar as it has been in previous years. There's no changes.
And I also just want to be clear that the event permit that is in here is just for information only, that it will be going to council at the next council meeting for them to approve the event.
So if something has to change, that can still happen with
Mhm.
Cassie.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, got a motion with support to approve the July 4th expenses. Can I get a roll call?
Eric Schaefer,
Yes.
Ann Alberg,
Yes.
Sherry DeGraff,
Aye.
Casey Haney,
Yes.
Joe Mancini,
Aye.
Justine King.
Yes. Okay. Next up, Riverbank Music Series.
So
There's a bunch.
sorry. Yeah. So I had an individual reach out to me called, his business is called Massages by Luke. And through some correspondences with this individual, he was interested in how he could potentially be involved and offer or sell like his services, like short like massages and things, masseuse things of that nature, and spa things. He was interested in being present in the Riverbank series to offer those services. Currently, right now, all we really have or allow is really like food vendors and things of that nature. So after speaking to this person, I would like to propose that the DDA approve the inclusion of non-food vendors, such as like the portable massage services or other relevant experiential offerings at the Riverbank series that could potentially elevate the experience for certain individuals that might be interested in those things. I would like to make it known that I think that it should be offered like by case basis, contingent on making sure that the vendor is in alignment with the family friendly and community centered nature of the event, that there's no disruption to the music or the flow of the crowd, that they have appropriate insurance and permits, if applicable, and then additionally making sure that there's prior approval by the community development coordinator, which is me.
So the market and like the Riverbank overlap, right? So
Mm-hmm.
where would this be located in?
So my thoughts are potentially either having them set up in the pavilion during the Riverbank series, or maybe even potentially having them kind of like in the lawn off to like the side away from like the crowd, so as not to take away from like the seating places for individuals, but also make it so that they're accessible, and that they can still listen to the music while they're getting a massage or having a facial or things of that nature.
Yeah, usually at the market, we kind of reserve the end of the pavilion, where the semicircle is. We leave that empty for anything else. So technically, he could go there. And plus, the last couple of places are reserved for entrepreneurs. So he could set up at 6 o'clock,
Right.
because, the market is still going till 7. So whoever's there could set up
Gotcha.
probably at, 6 o'clock, wait for the music to
Yeah.
start at 6:30, because there's a little overlap between the market
Yeah.
and the
Well,
the music.
that's kind of what I was wondering, was like, he's paying like a vendor fee of the $60 separately. So I just kind of thought maybe keeping it separate from the market would be like,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I
right,
mean?
Yeah.
That's why I don't.
But we definitely could provide room under the pavilion
there.
for him.
And my plan would be to charge him like the standard vendor fee like we do for our food truck. So $60 to per night to set up and offer his services.
And then I guess my only other thought would be maybe to limit the time of it being like only during, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Right.
Not like super overlapping the market, I guess, unless he wants to buy a market spot too. He can do
Yeah.
both.
Correct.
So I guess maybe that would be my only thing, would just be like,
This actually isn't
Good time.
for the market. This is for the Riverbank
right,
music.
yeah. So I want to make sure it aligns with the timing of that, yeah. So. Okay. Anything else?
No,
Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Any support?
second support.
Okay, we got a motion to approve the inclusion of non-food vendors at the Riverbank Music Series with support. Any more discussion?
I got one. Cassie, you mentioned that any further vendors would be approved by you and not by the board. Is that what I understand? Or does it still have to come before the board?
So my thoughts are as long as there's like clear guidelines as to what, as long as they are in alignment with, keeping it family friendly.
I think
And-
that everyone's view on that and perception of that might be different. And I think that it should be a board decision and not one individual.
Okay.
I agree.
So we'll change that motion to include that the board has to approve, not Cassie. Fair?
Okay.
Okay, any more discussion?
No, no more.
Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes. Next, more Heritage Day stuff? No, Riverbank Music, I don't know, it's all in one
We're still
here.
on Riverbank. So I was able to sit down and have a meeting with Chris Noah, the president of the Rotary Club. And we were able to have a pretty fruitful conversation about their current presence at the Riverbank series, over the last several years. And after speaking to him, this is like the way that the Rotary Club tries to be present for the community by offering like low cost food for, families to come out so that they can have an affordable, night out and, buy a hot dog or a burger. From my understanding, it sounds, after speaking to Chris Noah, is that they typically are aware that, their costs are going to be more than their revenue. So they go there and they're, expecting to sell at a loss, to make sure that their food prices are consistently affordable for family members, families that may not be able to take their families out otherwise. After speaking to them, I think that potentially as we move forward, I think it would be beneficial to sit down and have a conversation with the Rotary Club about what our relationship with them looks like moving forward and what makes sense, for their presence and our relationship to keep it symbiotic so that everybody is benefiting. I do believe that we should keep I think it would be good to keep things as they have been, where they are kind of allowed to have that spot to sell their food. And from what I understand is that it has always been given to them complimentary. And so my request is I would like to respectfully request that the DDA approve for the Rotary Club to have a continued presence at the 2025 Riverbank Music Series with a complimentary vendor space for this season only, and with the understanding that both parties will work together in the months ahead to determine a plan forward that meets the needs of all involved.
So then I have a question. I know that we kind of talked previous meetings of like having other food trucks there.
Yes.
So then are we not doing that?
So
I
we
just
will.
wanna make sure.
Yeah. So I still plan to have food trucks. I still plan to have like only one food truck at each night, and I will charge them the standard vendor fee. However, given the fact that Rotary Club does this as kind of a like kind of like a charity thing as a way to give back to the community, I think it would behoove us to allow them to have that space complimentary this year. And then moving forward in the next couple months, for next year, working out like maybe a different path, maybe this path makes sense and we keep this path, or maybe we find another way to move forward in our relationship with the Rotary Club in a way that's beneficial for all parties.
Yeah, because that would be my question is like, what's the negative of just making the proposal be that at the Riverbank Music Series every year, there, until somebody says otherwise and wants to bring it to the board to change it, that they would always have
Right.
that space.
Yes.
I don't know why we wouldn't, why we have to come back every year. Yeah, I feel like
Agreed.
it's kind of inefficient.
Okay.
Now,
Very good.
just a question, I know they do hamburgers and hot dogs. Do they do anything else besides that?
I-
Suggestions,
Oh,
like a
If I
corn dog
can
or
talk
whatever.
without a motion in support.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're on Rotary.
You're up, go.
Yeah, you're on the,
I filled out the request to do multiple things,
oh, okay, cool.
more
Oh, no.
than what we normally do.
Okay.
Do we have to do them all? Are we gonna do pulled pork every time?
No,
Ah,
no,
maybe.
you're right, but change it up a little bit. I mean, it
But
would be
brats,
nice.
burgers,
Or
hot dogs, that's the staple.
Yeah.
And I've added on a few things that we may potentially explore in the future.
Brats would be nice, I like brats.
So Cassie, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, what you're proposing to the board is that you're not certain if the Riverbank Music Series directly aligns with the Rotary's mission, or if there might be more viable events to discuss.
Correct.
Establish a committee at a future date.
Correct.
and
I would
figure
like
out better
to.
ways to engage both parties.
Yes, correct. I would like to find, I would like to really sit down with the Rotary Club and figure out like what makes sense for both parties. Like, does it make sense for them to continue being at the Rotary, or excuse me, at the Riverbank Series, or does it make sense to, have events, that might fit for them a lot better. And then like additionally too, another thought I had as well is that, maybe from like the Rotary Club's perspective, though I cannot, speak on their behalf, but from my understandings with Chris Noah, after my conversation with him, is that maybe it doesn't make sense for them to, maybe they would not like to continue participating in that same way if food trucks are going to be there.
I guess for me, it's, I don't think that the Rotary Club or the Lions Club should probably ever pay like vendor fees for anything that we do.
And as far as I
so.
see it, I don't think that, I don't know if I differ from Dr. Noah's opinion, but I am the incoming president, and I feel that it's going to be very difficult for a food truck selling a $12 grilled cheese sandwich to compete with a $4 burger. I just think that the people that come there to listen to the free music are more in tune with more budget friendly, family friendly menu.
And it's diversity for sure, because like I'm gonna go hit up the food truck, but my kids are gonna eat the hot dogs. So we're a 50-50 family here.
Well,
So,
well, that's the thing. I mean, let's try it.
yeah,
Hey,
I think that's.
I would like to have a taco, if you're gonna give a taco truck.
Mhm.
I don't mind burgers and hot dogs and brats, but, I
But,
can get that anywhere.
but what you're missing, the point is that the endless amount of volunteer hours that the Lions and the Rotary give to our community, and they're wanting to do this at our music series.
Oh, no, and I
So
understand
now
that.
we're gonna throw somebody in there,
Mhm.
and if we do, let's do a dessert truck,
We could do
like
that
an
too.
elephant ear or something. You know what I mean?
That's-
So if
Instead
the
of-
board remembers that you approved the food trucks a couple meetings ago, that was already approved.
Mhm.
Say that again.
The food trucks being added to the music series was approved as part of a previous board meeting.
But it still can be
It was.
dessert.
There was an emphasis
Absolutely,
on
that was
the
dessert
discussion.
in the
Yep.
conversation. So, and if we get into it and we see that we're having issues with any concerns, we can bring it right back to the board and cancel the food trucks.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
that's
Let's try it
absolutely on
and
the
see what
table.
happens.
And I think people might agree, is it beneficial to all concerned? And will it build goodwill and better friendships? Those are two of the four-way tests. You had to throw that in there, everybody.
No one gets it, but you guys, okay? But yes, I guess the only thing I would say is, from my opinion for this proposal would be that I think we should just approve, not just for this season, I think we should just approve
Okay.
to ongoing, and then that way we don't have to come back next year if they do
Mhm.
decide this makes sense for them. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't matter. They're approved to be there. If they choose not to be, that's fine too. You know what
Okay,
I mean? That's
yeah.
fine.
Agreed.
I mean, that would be my opinion. You guys.
I
Sounds good.
definitely agree. And like, if something were to come up, or like, if even if like, say we as, board or whatever, we go out there and spend time out there and see like, okay, maybe this isn't working and bring it back to the board and
Yep.
talk about it and then,
Yep.
Go from there.
And I'm always open to any feedback anyone has. So
Keep it
Yeah.
simple.
call me
Yeah.
anytime or Doug. But I'm nice. I'm just kidding. Okay. Anyway, I would take a motion if anyone wants to give one to this.
I'll make the motion with the adjustment of the no.
Ongoing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I support.
Motion for the
Second.
continued Rotary Club participation with no vendor fee ongoing. With support. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes.
Alrighty.
Get back up there. You got Heritage Day, girl.
Oh, you got there.
Good try.
We're all a work in progress.
All right, so Heritage Day is obviously coming up. We had our first Heritage meeting, Heritage Day meeting in May. Currently, we were able to, the committee was able to look at a bunch of different dates, try to compare with what's happening in other cities around us to make sure that we, when we're scheduling our Heritage Day, is not in conflict with any other major events going on, such as Summerfest. So the committee formally voted to propose that Saturday, September 13th, 2025, to be the official date for Heritage Day of 2025. The next meeting for the Heritage Day Committee is going to be June 10th at 5 o'clock. We will be meeting here. It will be obviously a public meeting for anybody to show up if they so choose to. During this committee meeting, I plan to bring forward to get in contact with the NXT band to get an invoice to bring forward to the committee to agree on the invoice and the amount
Mhm.
that NXT is requesting, and then have them vote and then bring that forward to the board once I have the invoice in hand. I would like to respectfully request that the DDA board approve Saturday, September 13th, 2025 as the official date for Heritage Day for 2025.
Any discussions?
I would like to make a motion that we approve September 13th, 2025 as the official day for Heritage Day 2025. And I would also like to add, with the caveat, that if the NXT band is willing to do this for $1,000, which is the agreed upon amount, I would like to give Cassie the approval to sign them. Does that make sense
To drop a
for
contract.
that date? Just so that they are,
Yeah, locked in.
that they're locked in and they know what they're expecting.
And you want it not to exceed 1,000?
Correct, not to exceed 1,000.
Okay, any support?
Can I ask a question?
We were doing so good.
I was just gonna say, two separate motions because one needs to be roll called because of money being spent and the other one you can just.
Okay, he said the date. He's
All right.
just saying the date
I'm good with the date. September 13th.
and some support.
Who's the support?
Who was the support?
I
I'll
asked if I can
I'll
ask a
support.
question.
Oh, you ask a
Oops.
question.
For Heritage Day, are they like playing at a specific time at Heritage Day or?
Yes.
the band?
Assuming,
Oh, okay. I did
No,
not.
you're
I was like, I don't know.
understand.
But okay, that makes sense. Okay, got it.
Okay, motion, Eric, support, Ann. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Now I make a motion to allow NXT to play on Heritage Day, which is September 13th, not to exceed $1,000.
And Cassie to.
And give Cassie permission to
And
execute
Cassie
that
can
contract.
draw up the contract.
Support.
Okay.
Or second.
Motion, support and second.
Roll call.
And any more discussion about it? Okay, roll call, please.
Ann Olberg,
Yes. Yes.
Sherry DeGraff,
Aye.
Casey Haney,
Yes.
Joe Mancini,
Aye.
Eric Schaefer,
Yes.
Justine King.
Yes. Okay, you got two. What a deal. All right, up next, budget adjustments. Now what? Is this messed up now because of earlier? No?
No,
Okay, good.
it's not.
Glad to hear it.
We prepared accordingly. It was planned just in case if the board decided to move forward with this.
Good thing we
So-
did.
Absolutely. So the recommendation is that the board consider increasing the fund balance to reflect revenues and transferring funds to adjust expenses. I can certainly go into detail about any of these. You'll notice on the last page, it shows a breakdown. So part of the reason as to why we see this adjustment is the one, winter taxes, we don't necessarily know what that number is. We just anticipate that. Earlier in our budget, the interest, that's revenue generated, from dollars that we have invested. So, we don't know what that is until we get to later in the year. So having the budget reflect those. And then you'll see each of these line items that, like I said, I'll be glad to go into detail about them. But you'll notice that it'll show how much, what the expense was versus, what the suggested increase is. If you want me to go in details, I'd be more than happy to.
We don't.
Not necessary.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. This is spelled out really great. Any discussion about it?
Oh, Glorimar prepared this, so.
Looks good.
Yeah, I'll take a motion.
Motion to approve the
Budget adjustment.
budget adjustment for 2025.
I support.
Okay, motion with support. Any more discussion? Okay, roll call.
Ann Olberg,
Aye.
Sherry DeGraff,
Aye.
Casey Haney,
Aye.
Joe Mancini,
Aye.
Eric Schaefer,
Yes.
Justine King.
Yes. Are we sick of roll calls tonight?
Anytime there's money.
All right, director's report / Main Street work plan / potential budget /
So before I get into this too much, I'd like to just touch base on a couple updates that happened recently that I was not able to include in this packet. But regarding the downtown speakers, the company that we had purchased those speakers for no longer exists. That I'd actually had a local company, from Michigan, reaching out and provided me some estimates if we end up deciding that we do need or want to make changes. I have that information. Also, I've gotten estimates for the bathroom addition. If the board, it's been discussed as potentially, including a overhang or some type of gazebo to allow for, food preparation at the Sesquicentennial Park. Have those estimates per square footage, so that could certainly be discussed at a later date. One other item may potentially want to discuss, I was hoping, the full board would be here, but there's been discussion about downtown plowing, something whether or not the board potentially has interest. Certainly doesn't need a vote, but if that's something that there's possible interest in, I can work with the manager and DPW to see what, that potential financial impact would be, and also work with the attorney to make sure that we're doing it in an appropriate manner. But beyond that, there's a couple administrative updates, like the design aspect, the dumpster screen. The contractors informed me that he's likely to have it done this weekend. He is probably working as we speak because I've seen his vehicle there. Streetscape, Malia had already presented that, so I don't have any more information. Regarding the TIF, we're going to have the joint meeting discussing that with the village council to make sure we're on the same page, try to address any comments, questions, or concerns. We do have a Main Street Committee meeting coming up on June 12th. Beyond that, I have included a handful of informational items for the board as well. There's a workshop in Coldwater that I'm planning on attending. If anyone is interested, let me know ASAP, because got to figure out logistics. It's always a short time to make those things happen. But beyond that, I've engaged or added the engaged work plan, as that's the primary document we discussed for those Main Street meetings. And the tentative worksheet for the budget is included in here as well. That will continue to undergo changes, but next month we'll have discussion about what our current financial status is. We're required to have at least 2 informational meetings a year, so we'll have that discussion while notifying the taxing jurisdictions accordingly. And does anyone have any questions about any of that? Anything else? Be happy to.
Plowing, like,
So the sidewalks, there's been
sidewalks.
concerns about maintaining the sidewalks in the downtown area or
think I watched
possibly
that
in the
in the village.
DDA district. We would have to define what that scope would look like, what the need is, and, work out logistics. But it's been a topic of discussion, more so at the council level than this
Yeah.
board. But, our liaison is suggesting, or our president suggested he was going to bring it to this board too,
okay,
for further discussion.
well, I guess he's taking it to his board, it's not here. Just kidding. Okay, fair. Looks like you want feedback from us on facade and design stuff.
That's correct. That currently, we haven't issued any facade grants. Myself and Cassie are going to be discussing like what the current status is. I'd like to
Mhm.
also work with the attorney to see what actual grant application he has last reviewed to make sure that we are compliant if there are any issues,
Because we
and
just
figure out ways we
redid it.
could possibly address it. Because you remember when we met with the person who prepared the original design renderings for the downtown?
Mm-hmm.
That was reviewed by legal, but I don't know if these recent ones have been.
Okay.
And there's been possible backfall associated with some of them.
Sure, okay. Okay, any questions for Doug or anything? Okay, well, we'll let Kevin bring the plowing back to us if he wants to do that.
Probably looking at like the ad hoc committee with a couple members from DDA and a couple from council.
How far would this go? Would it go up to
It'd be the
the
scope.
carpet?
It'd be,
Yes.
it'd be determined by the-
Unfortunately. You should plow your own side.
Determined by the committee.
We have a volunteer.
Okay. Sounds great. And our meeting's coming, we have a meeting coming up, that's June 17th? Okay. Just keeping my life together here. Okay. Everyone done with Doug? Okay. Cassie's up.
Thanks. Okay. All right. So, as the month of May has ended, a couple things have happened. So obviously the launch of the Middleville Market happened on May 23rd. We honestly had a pretty good turnout for the market. I think a lot of our vendors were really surprised at the turnout, of how many people came, even despite the fact that it was extremely cold. I was wearing a parka and a hat and gloves. It was pretty chilly out. All of the vendors were extremely happy. The local entrepreneur booths went extremely well. Inkwell Archives had participated on the first day, and they received a lot of interest, and so did our Mary Kay booth. Both vendors for the entrepreneur booth stayed within the guidelines as listed, and were respectful of the rules. And both booths received a lot of attention, and there was a high community interest in their tables. Everybody else had pretty decent sales. And so overall, all of our market participants were very happy. Additionally, I finalized the 2025 Music Series lineup and have ordered and received already all of the promotional materials for the events. I was able to secure $10,000 in sponsorships for all of our events.
I have continued business visits and support, including vendor guidance, storefront checkups, and just small business assistance. Additionally, I am promoting the upcoming event, the June 13th Downtown Shop Hop, and have been coordinating details with the participating businesses. Additionally, I have begun developing a data tracking system to monitor the attendance, the engagement, vendor satisfaction, community satisfaction, to help identify what is working, what needs improvement, and how we can optimize events for a stronger community turnout and satisfaction. Additionally, I'm also preparing to attend a MDA training event in Traverse City. I will be gone for that tomorrow and Thursday, and will return on Friday in time for the market and the Riverbank series beginning. And then additionally as well, I've been creating a list of some behind the scenes content that I am hoping to capture to help with launching vendor features at our market, and then also trying to promote the music series to get more visibility and interest. And so my next steps overall is to focus on the market, the Riverbank series, Heritage Day, get the Fall Fest planning committee together, and then additionally continuing with my business and community engagement. And then also I have been brainstorming some future event ideas that I have been looking into and doing some research based on towns that are very similar to Middleville, in different states, and some of the things that they do, what works for them, how are they engaging with their community, especially the communities that are getting high engagement from the youth and their younger demographics, and how we can potentially look at those events and figure out how we can incorporate, what it is that they're doing to get our younger demographics to engage in our events. Anything for Chris?
Under number 2,
Mm-hmm.
the second bullet point, coordinated and scheduled vendors for the local entrepreneur booth with clear expectations set for conduct and logistics. Is that written down somewhere? The
Yes.
conduct?
Yep, those are in the guidelines. So when somebody signs up for the market, it's like the same application for the market. However, inside of that market packet is the local entrepreneur guidelines.
Okay. The other thing, the data tracking system, that sounds really interesting. Is that something you could share with us?
Yeah, so it's kind of one of those things where I will be able to show you as soon as I have the data. I am planning to have it finished and ready to launch on June 20th. I would like to use, for example, a QR code to have posted everywhere for surveys, and then also implementing some other ways that I can get people to kind of engage. And I'm going to be sending out surveys to our vendors, to our market vendors, to our food trucks, to our music performers, and then additionally in those questions, I would like to figure out what do people want, what is going to get our younger demographic down here and engaging in our events. And then additionally as well, also tracking on bullet point 3, I kind of talk a little bit more about the data tracking goals, to kind of also figure out and monitor our promotions, are they working, by looking at social media. And I'm also can share as well next meeting those data and those graphs for you as to what that engagement rate is looking like on social media.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds interesting. I have a quick question. So for the Heritage Day and the Fall Fest and whatnot, So do we have like a list of volunteers that we go off of? Or like is the board, do we have like required volunteer hours? Like how does
Just
that
for you.
work?
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Or do we not? I don't know.
So from what I understand is there is no because I did actually look into this, it doesn't look like there is any guidelines for you for like clear like volunteer hours. However, that is something that we could potentially discuss exploring. Adding, adding volunteer adding volunteer hours, if we think that that's necessary, or and then additionally too, I do believe that there is a volunteer database, but mostly I've been going off of people approaching me and saying I want to be involved. For example, the Grimsby's, who own Grimsby Hollow Meadery, have expressed interest in being part of the fall planning committee. And there are a couple other members that have approached me about interest in joining those committees.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've done the market for probably the last 3-4 years. And I don't know if the previous directors had a list of volunteers or not. I know I maintain a list of vendors. I've shared that with Cassie. I do have a list of previous vendors and everything. When we first started setting up the market, I sent an email out to everybody that's on my list, but volunteers, we've never had one, and I don't know if previous directors have had it. It just wasn't passed down, but that would be nice to create a spreadsheet, a database or something.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know.
and I just didn't know if like we're, like I signed up for like the Berry County Fair.
Sure.
So like I didn't know if like with all the different events going on, like, hey, I can do 2 hours here,
Mhm.
or if we, going forward, I don't know if we want to do that, obviously, if we want to like set a requirement of volunteer hours. But I was just curious. I didn't know what the board does.
I
So-
think we should create a database of, at least for the DDA, of volunteers. Hey, I helped a Heritage Day, the Fall Fest,
Yeah.
Christmas on the River. Hey, at least we've got a list of people with their phone numbers and emails that we can send out. Hey,
Absolutely. I mean, that's going to
Yeah.
be important for our whole Main Street thing is the volunteers. So we do need
Yeah.
to maybe.
And I mean,
add that
I
to your list.
obviously I would go down, and help with
Yeah.
whatever
Oh, yeah,
is
right,
needed,
right.
but I just wanted to make sure or ask.
I
So,
think, personally, mandating we're volunteering as we speak
well, right.
in a
yeah.
way, right? So we got to be careful with that because we don't want to scare people away. But definitely.
I just didn't know.
Yeah, but
So,
definitely, no, we're not required as of like bylaws or anything. But yes, if you want to work on like a volunteer database, I think that would be important for us to have. And, even if you had a survey of some sort that you could send out and be like, what are you interested in volunteering for, and getting
Oh,
some
yeah.
community feedback.
I can help out in that with Cassie.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Access Database, I know Word and stuff like that, so
Yeah.
I can help out with that.
Yeah, that's
I
great.
don't have a problem.
My only other question is, you mentioned Fall Fest. That has not always been us. So I guess my question mark is, what events are us and what does that look like? Because last year we didn't do the Fall Fest, volunteers did it. And so I want to make sure we're all on the same page with what events we are doing.
Sure.
As opposed to just kind of like pulling some in and out a little bit.
Right. So I do plan to, I am planning to bring forward, potentially in the next meeting, to bring forward a list of like events that I think that we should like take on for the board to essentially like vote on and say yay or nay, like, and what we do want to take on. For Fall Fest, from talking to some of the people that are interested in volunteering, I think that they have some really unique, good ideas that I think could really engage some of our younger constituents. Unlike other events like the Riverbank series and Heritage Day, like those are very like cut, concrete, set in stone events. There's no room for, doing something different. I mean, I feel like people would riot if we did not have Heritage Day. But I think Fall Fest is one of those events where like it's been on and off, and I think that we have the potential to look into the logistics of Fall Fest and think about what makes sense from like the DDA board perspective and how we can utilize that event or an event like during the fall period to connect with the individuals that don't connect with the Riverbank series or the Heritage Day series.
No, I agree. And I think if you started working on a volunteer database, that would also influence decisions on events, because if we don't have the volunteers, we can't do the events. So,
Right.
so I think those are kind of cohesive and we should put those together. But okay, anything else?
Calendar, what events are being done towards the end of the year.
Yes, that is correct.
Anything else for
Perfect.
Cassie? Good. Okay, thank you, Cassie. You have some more informational items in there, and then we will move to public comment round 2. Anyone out there? Okay, great. DDA board member comments. Joe, what you got?
Okay. I'd like to thank Cassie. She's done a great job with helping with the market and stuff. Last Friday was our second day of the market. We didn't, second weekend of the market. I was expecting a little bit better weather, but it wasn't bad. We had a great crowd come down. Vendors, I know a couple of vendors really did well, which is nice. People have been asking for vegetables and fruit and stuff like that, but that's not ready yet. So a little early, but I think we've got a couple of vendors that can provide that. And hopefully as time progresses, we'll put that out there. Hopefully with the music starting this Friday, it should kind of boost a little bit, 6 o'clock or so, the farmer's market. My only concern is parking and trying to get the vendors out.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
people come and to the music and tend to park up there. So we can't get our vendors' vehicles in there for them to unload, to load their cars up or vehicles and move out. And it's public parking. We really can't say you can't park here,
Gotcha.
But, that's something that we're gonna have to play with and work around.
Even if you could block off like one space or something.
Well,
Anyway,
that's
yeah,
one,
think about
that's
it.
one thing.
Think about it.
Yeah, we'll think about
Yeah.
that.
Perfect. Sounds good.
I have no comments.
Casey.
I'm just excited for the upcoming events, and I went to the Inkwell grand opening, so that was really fun.
Awesome. Yeah, I heard that was
I'm
awesome.
excited to go back when there's not a lot of people there, but it was very cool to go in there. So
Awesome. Good.
Next weekend is the Rock the Country Festival. I think everyone's aware of it, and I just pray for a successful and safe event for everybody involved.
mhm.
For sure.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay. I think I'm just roll called out, so I don't have anything either. I appreciate all of you.
Just one quick,
Yes.
Casey was down at the market last
Yeah.
Friday, and that's nice. People did get to see her.
Yeah.
I'd like to see everybody stop down
Yeah.
for 10, 15 minutes,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and just look at the market and say, hey, I'm on the DDA, anything you need?
Yep.
You know.
I know. I should be better. I get it.
No, I'm not judging somebody, but,
It's fine. No, that's fair and good. Yes, I agree. Lots of events coming up, so hopefully we can sneak into some and say, hey,
okay, cool.
appreciate it. Okay, I'll take a motion to be done.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support it.
Okay, motion with support to adjourn. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right.
All right.
Good meeting. Good job, guys.
And that hurts.
Spent a lot of money on this.